All right, good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. It's 9 o'clock. And I'd like to call the MetroPlan board meeting of July 8, 2026 to order. If you could take a moment and just make sure that your electronic devices are silenced. In addition, I'm asking everyone to speak directly into their microphone, including myself, because I forget. This is important because we do record responses, and we want to make sure that our guests in the audience who have any potential hearing impairments, please let us know. Lisa, if someone cannot be heard, make sure that we are noticed. And then we have two important opportunities at this meeting for public comments. Public comments on action items appearing on today's agenda are heard before we get to action items, and then public comments of a general nature are heard near the end of the meeting. Anyone attending today's meeting in person who wishes to make a public comment is asked to please complete a speaker card. These are available at the reception desk and on the table near the door. Cards should be given to Lisa Smith. Members of the public who are attending online and wish to make a comment should fill out an electronic speaker's card. We want this and all future meetings to be accessible to all. Participants may join by computer, tablet, or phone. If you need special accommodation to participate, please contact MetroPlan Orlando. Now I'm going to ask Commissioner Ortiz to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you all. So I wanted to update the board on the micromobility issue. Last month, the board expressed support for MetroPlan Orlando to explore regional approach to addressing micromobility safety concerns involving e-bikes and e-scooters. Since that time, Governor DeSantis vetoed SB 382. While that veto changes the legislative path forward, it also really presents an opportunity, I believe, for this board and our entire region to address the needs that we know are coming forward because of the micromobility safety concerns. Communities throughout Central Florida continue to grapple with this issue, and many are pursuing different approaches independently. There is a value in understanding what is already occurring across our region. I think there's a daily update from our municipal partners and school boards, and identifying opportunities for greater consistency, coordination, and collaboration. As I discussed with staff, I have asked MetroPlan Orlando to move forward with a Central Florida micromobility safety initiative focused on developing a regional policy framework and identifying best practices that may help inform future local, regional, and legislative discussions. I, along with Vice Chair Janer and Secretary Treasurer Delari, will serve as the initiative's leadership team and help guide this effort on behalf of MetroPlan Orlando Board. As we move forward, we will be asking for the assistance of our fellow board members in identifying and engaging the appropriate local government, law enforcement, community, and leaders across our region in order to incorporate them in our regional discussion. Staff will be coordinating with these partners to convene an initial regional roundtable in early September. And in the meantime, we'll work with the Vision Zero Task Force to gather information that will help inform the regional discussion so that when we come together, we're prepared. This effort is intended to bring together local governments, transportation agencies, school districts, law enforcement, health and safety partners, and other stakeholders to better understand the issue and explore opportunities for regional collaboration. MetroPlan Orlando has a unique opportunity to help Central Florida develop a coordinated regional approach to micromobility safety and really help shape the next conversation on this important issue. Staff will continue to provide updates to this board as the initiative progresses. Are there any comments from?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Nice.
Thank you for your leadership on this. I think that, as we spoke about at the last meeting, this is very important, not just for one county or one municipality, but for the entire region, if not the state. And I'm hoping that we all agree that this should be an ongoing effort until it is not just solved, but addressed. And that this is on the forefront of one of our objectives for the next couple of years until we can actually get our arms around this, because safety is the primary issue that transportation leaders like ourselves need to be focusing on. So I'm hoping that this stays the forefront for until it actually gets solved. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, you recognize, Mayor.
Had it on. We're grappling with it in the city of Orlando, just like everybody else. And I think that it should be a coordinated regional approach so that we don't have a myriad of different rules from city to county to the next city over. And the school boards definitely play a huge role because so many of the e-bikes, e-scooters, whatever, are on their way to school or on their way away from school. And at least getting helmets on all these kids, the school boards can help us with that by having some enforcement there as well. So I know you're going to include them in all of this, but that's important.
Absolutely. And I agree. I think those vulnerable users, we want to make sure, because we've already seen the consequences to some extent of not having some rules of the road or some information and education base. So thank you for that support. Are there any other? All right, with that, we will continue on. So Floridians for Better Transportation Summit. I attended the Floridians for Better Transportation event on June 18th and 19th along with some of my colleagues, as you can see. I was impressed with the content, the number and quality of the presenters. MetroPlan Orlando really had great representation there with Commissioner Janer, Uribe, and Delari also attending. Our highlights included a presentation from FHWA Administrator Sean McMaster, following a fireside chat between Administrator McMaster and FDOT Secretary Perdue. Then a discussion with Secretary Perdue and his thoughts on higher standards leading to a better transportation system. The program was focused on data and technology and making our transportation system more reliable and safe. I didn't know if anybody else had a comment about it. It was very illuminating and getting a chance to also, I think, get to know some of those individual agency members. Central Florida Commuter Rail Commission, the Rail Commission met on June 25th, and Commissioner Janer has a report for us this morning. Commissioner Janer, you are recognized.
Yes, I do. Good morning, everybody. The Central Florida Commuter Rail Commission did meet on June 25th. All action items were approved, including our minutes from the previous meeting, an amendment to our local funding agreement, updates to the attorney services agreement, and ratification and approval of a CAC member, Jared Reese. It is worth noting that Jared is also on the MetroPlan Orlando Community Advisory Committee. We heard updates on the Station to Celebration outreach event, which was aimed to get riders to graduation events and ongoing small business outreach efforts. We also received a connectivity report update from the staff, and we heard public comments relating for the desire of 7-day, 24-hour bus and train service. That sounds familiar. The next CFCRC meeting is scheduled for July 23rd at Link Central Station. That is my report. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Janer. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Thank you again, Commissioner. And then we'll be moving on to the MetroPlan Orlando safety moment. This one looks a little different today. At this point, we'll hear from Laura Buck. I hope I'm not completely messing up your name, so help correct me on this month's safety moment. She's going to be talking to us about distracted driving.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, board members. Laura Bauk, very close. It's close enough. So this month's safety moment is going to be on distraction. You know, we brought up distracted driving a little bit, but a little bit different focus this time. And harkening back actually to our most recent safety speaker series webinar where we did focus on distracted driving, but from a different perspective. We had two speakers, and our first speaker, Dr. Jennifer Katzenstein, was really focused on how what's in our head, sometimes we have anxiety, depression, a lack of sleep, stress, how that can impact what we're doing when we're driving and our ability to pay attention to anticipate what we need to do and our reaction time. So she was a really great lead-in, I think, to our second speaker for that webinar, who is Dr. Patricia Tice, who was talking about how we as planners and engineers can make sure that we're designing our roadways in a way that's going to help to make sure that we are engaging our drivers, our bicyclists, our pedestrians when they're out on our roadways and transportation facilities to fight some of those things that are going on within our mind. And really, I think this month's safety moment gets to that safe systems approach and these Vision Zero principles, noting that we as humans, we do make mistakes, that we're vulnerable, but what we can really do as a part of that overall safe system approach is make sure that we're making sure that our roadways are redundant, that we're building in safety proactively in a way that's going to fight against some of those things that are going on in our head. So as we approach all of the actions within our Vision Zero Safety Action Plan and a lot of the work that we're doing in the safety space, we're really trying to make sure that safety is proactive, that we're being proactive in how we're thinking about how we design our roadways and transportation facilities to reduce those speeds, to encourage our bicyclists, pedestrians, drivers to be acting as defensively as possible. And I'll share a quote that Mike has been sharing from one of our members of the American Bicycling Education Association, which you'll hear a little bit more about in my later presentation, Carrie Craffery, who is talking about how when she as a bicyclist is approaching how she bikes and she's the one who takes the lane, she said, when I changed the way that I ride, suddenly all the drivers around me got so much smarter. So with that, I'll answer any questions that you have.
Thank you so much. I couldn't agree more with the idea that I don't think anyone sets out to be a distracted driver, and there's just a lot going on when we're trying to get somewhere, whatever the means or method of that. Is that webinar still available? If we
It is available, yes, on the MetroPlan Orlando YouTube channel. We have actually all of the videos from our safety speaker series, and we are happy to share that out. But if you go to that channel and go to our safety, there's a group of all of the videos you can check.
Perfect. I was going to say, just so we can catch up in our own time.
Absolutely.
Are there any questions or comments from the board members? Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
We'll now recognize Executive Director Gary Hutman for his announcements and agenda review.
Good morning again, Chairwoman Wilson and board members. This month or last month, on June 23rd, we had a visit from FHWA staff. I believe 4 of them were here. So we continue to get recognized for the safety action plans done a couple of years ago, and the work that continues from them. Laura Bauk and Adriana Rodriguez did a great job of presenting to this group. Then they took them on a site visit to a section of Westmoreland Drive. Adriana is the project manager on that task and shared an overview of the safety issues seen on that segment and generally along the Westmoreland corridor and some of the countermeasures that were floated during the walking audit. The FHWA team showed an understanding of the safety challenges on that corridor and expressed support for how we're continuing to link our safety work to the findings and actions noted in the regional safety action plans. At the end of the field visit, as well as at the end of our presentation, they were very complimentary toward MetroPlan Orlando and the work that we've done here in the region, and noticed their impression of that. One of the leaders of that group also noted that she will likely make a suggestion to have MetroPlan Orlando present during one of the upcoming areas of practice webinars, and we'd be happy to do that for them. MPOs across the country continue to work with AMPO and NARC and other members of the LOT Coalition as the Build America 250 bill advances. So I'll continue to update the board on that as I can. I've included a copy of the 2026 Dangerous by Design report in your board agenda packets this morning. We're making progress if you've looked at it. We're no longer at the top of the list. I believe we're at number 25. So that's good news. I also want to announce that Smart Growth America will be hosting a webinar next Wednesday at 1 o'clock entitled Dangerous by Design, Solutions That Work. And Laura Hardwick from the city of Orlando will be one of the speakers during that event. And Laura also serves on the MetroPlan Technical Advisory Committee. The next MPOAC Institute, in case there's any interest, is going to be August 12th. That's on a Wednesday. It's going to be a full day of training beginning at 9 a.m. And that's going to be at the Alachua County Facilities Management in Gainesville. A little news on the Lake to Lake Regional Trail that you've been hearing about. Our next leadership team meeting is scheduled for the morning of July 15th. This meeting will be held at Bike Walk Central Florida, located at 100 East Pine Street in downtown Orlando. And then that afternoon, we have a scheduled meeting with DOT and DeLand for a briefing with the District 5 leadership team. Our consultant team has completed staff interviews associated with the strategic plan refresh that I mentioned at the last board meeting. They will soon begin at contacting the executive committee members, as well as a number of our advisory committee chairs and a few of the past chairs. We then plan a full day staff workshop on August 5th, and Lynx has agreed to let us use one of their meeting rooms for that. And now the reason that we're meeting at Lynx and we're meeting at Bike Walk. At the September meeting last year, if some of you recall, the board approved the Finance Committee recommendation to extend our lease here at this location. And that extension is through July 31st of 2037. Our current lease expires on October 31st of this year. The lease includes an allowance for some interior refreshing and the floors and so on. That we can start before the effective date of the lease. And so we looked at options to be least disruptive to us, and we felt that the month of August is probably a good month for them to be in here doing the work. So we will give them full access to our suite starting Monday. And so if you've wandered at all around the office this morning, you've probably seen some boxes with labels on them. And staff has been busy because we need to, it looks like we're moving, but we're not. We're just moving things around so that they can have access. So we'll be remote beginning Monday, July 13th, and be monitoring the work throughout the month, the remainder of July and August to check on progress and when we can come back in. But we've made arrangements so that we're not disrupted from any of our meetings. Regarding the agenda, we have Kelly Smith here representing DOT in place of Secretary Tyler, but there are no other changes to the agenda, so we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hutman. We will now move into agency reports. I believe you said Ms. Smith is here to update us from DOT, FDOT.
Thank you, everybody. My name's Kelly Smith. I am the Director of Development in the district about a month now. And so I've worked with Gary for about 12 years in various roles. And so it's really great to still be with the MPOs. Y'all do a lot of great work. Just a quick update. So we held the I-4 truck parking groundbreaking event on June 18th. I appreciate those that attended and went through some of the heat. We have a quick video, if Lisa, you don't mind showing.
We're here today to celebrate the start of construction for 5 truck parking locations along the I-4 corridor. As our state and our region continues to grow, so does the need for efficient movement of goods.
Listen, we're here today to deliver a massive win for Central Florida and for the American trucker. Thanks to funding provided by Federal Highways, these sites will be equipped with real-time digital sensors so drivers can see availability on their dash before they even pull off the highway.
It supports the American truck driver. It supports Florida's freight network, and it supports every American who depends on the goods that move through this corridor and throughout the country.
Today, the catalyst of us being here is a $180 million infra-grant award from USDOT. Now we're accelerating construction, and you see the evidence of construction already. We're breaking ground. And this is one of 5 locations. We're going to be bringing over 900 truck parking spots to the I-4 corridor.
Today is a great day to break ground on this future truck rest area here in Sanford, Florida. This facility will have 132 parking spots. The other facilities like it will put the driver back in the driver's seat, more rested, more safe, and more focused to deliver goods to the great state of Florida.
So it was a great morning, although with the heat, even with the heat, but we have 917 spots that we're looking to open. So we're really, really excited about these projects moving forward and advancing. It was a really great day with the FHWA administrator and then the motor carrier administrator, as well as Secretary Perdue and Tyler. I also want to thank you, everybody that did go to the Floridians for Better Transportation event. It was a really good event. We had the best representation from our MPOs and local agencies and partners in the state. And we hope that we'll continue to grow that partnership through that event in the future, because it was really very good hearing from FHWA and the executive leadership of FDOT. So we thank you guys for participating in that and bringing a great delegation along. So thank you. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that update. And we will move into roll call and confirmation of quorum. Ms. Lisa Smith, you are recognized.
Thank you. Good morning. Commissioner Anderson? Here. Mayor Bates?
Here.
Commissioner Constantine?
Here.
Commissioner Gomez Cordero? Commissioner Delari?
Here.
Mayor Dennings? Mayor Dyer?
Here.
Mayor Espinosa?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Gilbert?
Here.
Commissioner Grebe?
Here.
Commissioner Jainer?
Here.
Ms. Kapalusas?
Here.
Mr. Mayor?
Here.
Commissioner Scott? Commissioner Simrad?
Here.
Commissioner Jordan Smith?
Here.
Mr. Stephen Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Here.
Commissioner Uribe?
Present.
Commissioner Wilson?
Here.
Mayor Woodruff?
Here.
Madam Chair, that concludes the roll call, and we do have a quorum.
Woohoo! Thank you, everyone. It was a little nervous today after last time, so I'm sure that was a one-off, and I really thank everybody who is here to make sure we're moving forward every single opportunity we get. So we're going to move into committee reports, and we'll start with our Municipal Advisory Committee. Commissioner Jordan Smith, you are recognized.
Good morning, Madam Chair. The Municipal Advisory Committee met last Thursday, July 2nd. At that meeting, the MAC approved our June 4th meeting minutes. The MAC recommended approval of the fiscal year 26-27 to fiscal year 30-31 Transportation Improvement Program and the annual update to the prioritized project list. The MAC received two presentations. The first was a presentation on the 2026 Regional Transportation Survey, Public Opinion Research. We also received a presentation on the pedestrian bicycle crash analysis tool. The MAC meets next on September 3rd, 2026, and this concludes my report.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions for? Thank you. We'll move on to the Community Advisory Committee and Ms. Judy Pizzo.
Good morning, Madam Chair, and thank you, and members of the board. I am Judy Pizzo, Chair of the Community Advisory Committee. I just want to go off script just for a moment here. I want to remind we are comprised of volunteers who are passionate regarding the direction that transportation may be going in the Central Florida area. Our emphasis in many of our conversations has been regarding alternative modes that should be addressed, and as mentioned earlier by Madam Chair, the concerns regarding e-mobility. When approvals are made for those items brought to us, there is a significant amount of discussion that goes on prior to that decision. But again, we are an advisory committee and we can only advise. So that being said, the Community Advisory Committee met June 24th of 2026. Our committee recommended approval of the following two items: the fiscal year 2026-27 through fiscal year 2030-31 Transportation Improvement Plan, and also the annual updates to the prioritized project list. We received a presentation on the results of the 2026 Regional Transportation Survey, and our next CAC meeting is scheduled for August 26th. You can listen in if you ever have that moment of time in your schedule and hear our discussions. So thank you. This concludes my report, unless there's any conversation or discussion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate you going off script to make sure that we get a better understanding, I think, of the passion and involvement and the idea that it is volunteers doing volunteer work. So thank you for that also. Are there any questions or comments? We'll go on to Technical Advisory Committee, Mr. Miles O'Keefe.
Good morning, Madam Chair, board members. The TAC met a few weeks ago on June 26th. like the other committees. We met in person with the physical quorum present. We had 3 action items, all of which were unanimously approved. The first being our May 29th meeting minutes. The second, the FY 27-2031 Transportation Improvement Program. The third being the 2026 Prioritized Project List Update. We received 2 common presentations that we shared with TSMO. Presentation on the public opinion research and a presentation on the Pedestrian Bicycle Crash Analysis Tool, PBCAT, its updates and initial findings. We did not have any TAC-only presentations, and we did not receive any public comments. Our next meeting is August 28th at 10 a.m., and this concludes my report.
Thank you so much, Mr. O'Keefe. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to the Transportation System Management and Operations Advisory Committee, Mr. Lenny Barton.
Good morning, Madam Chair and board members. Christina's not here. I am Lenny Barton. I'm the Chief Mobility Officer for the City of Altamont Springs and also Vice Chair of the TSMO Committee. I chaired the meeting on June 26th for Christina in her absence. And in that meeting, the Transportation System Management and Operation Committee met. We approved 3 of the following items in the June meeting: the minutes of the May 29th meeting, staff's request for approval of the fiscal 27-31 TIP, and staff's request for approval of the annual updates to the PPL. The only presentation was by Mr. Nicholas Ramphros on the National Operations Center of Excellence and on TSMO program resources, products, and activities the center provides to the industry. Also, while it was not a formal presentation, Ms. Laura Bach facilitated a discussion on the data and analytics research that MetroPlan Orlando currently provides and that are available to support transportation planning, operations, and safety efforts across the region. The next meeting for TSMO Advisory Committee is on August 28th, 2026 at 8:30. I hope you all had a fun and safe 4th of July, and thank you for all those that came out to Red Hot and Boom. And that concludes my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Another good off-script moment there. I appreciate that, and happy 4th to you also. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, we will move now into our public comments portion of the agenda. Ms. Smith, are there any registered speakers for this portion?
Madam Chair, I have not received any.
Okay, then we will be moving into our consent agenda.
Motion for approval.
Second.
Gainer.
Second, Valari.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. We will move into other action items, starting with the approval of the 26-27 Transportation Improvement Program. This is a roll call vote. Do I have a motion? Oh, I'm so. My apologies. I'm just zooming on through. Thank you so much.
Good morning, Madam Chair and board members. Natalia Barber, MetroPlan. Last time I presented to you the TIP preview, and today I'm here to tell you what has changed and ask for your approval. So let's get into it. So what's Transportation Improvement Program? It's a budget for 5 years for transportation improvements in the Central Florida region, and it assigns available funding to projects. This is a TIP organization for this year's TIP. It varies by different sections between interstate highway systems, state highway, active transportation, regional transit, and others. So that's how you can browse the projects in the area. Here's the summary between state, federal, and toll funding for the fiscal year 27 to 31. The biggest category is the interstate and strategic intermodal system with 30 projects for $1.5 billion, followed by state highway system with 118 projects and $1 billion. And then it goes down the list all the way to TSMO projects for $51 million and 13 projects. And MetroPlan contributes to several of these projects, a total of 35 for $145 billion, although the division is slightly different. MetroPlan splits its funding between active transportation, TSMO, capital improvement when it comes to transit and urban corridor improvements. We went to the community and collected feedback. We visited every county. We went to Orange County, Osceola, and Seminole, and we were able to speak to 50 to 60 people on the transportation improvement program. Here's the summary of public comments. Major comments were collected when it comes to bicycle and pedestrian safety, congestion on John Young Parkway, Pleasant Hill Highway 192, as well as sinking traffic lights in Osceola County. And finally, improvements to the rail service in order to cut automobile traffic. One more thing, during our TISMO and TAC meeting, we received 2 small comments, and we are currently adding them to the document, and there were mapping updates and boundary changes, so very, very minor, but the updated tip will include those. And with this, I would like to ask for your approval for the 27 to 31 tip. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I apologize again for zooming to the vote. Are there any questions or comments before we? All right, then I'll entertain a motion.
Second, Janer.
All right, we have a motion for approval and a second. All in favor? Oh, actually, this will be a roll call vote.
Anderson, Bates,
Yes.
Constantine,
Yes.
Delary,
Here, yes.
Dyer, Espinosa,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Grieve,
Yes.
Janer,
Yes.
Kapalusas,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
Simrad, Smith,
Yes.
I'm sorry, Ortiz,
Yes.
Uribe,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Woodruff.
Yes.
That concludes the roll call and the motion carried unanimously.
Thank you so much. We're now going to hear from Mr. Slade Downs regarding the approval of the 2026 Prioritized Project List, or PPL.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Board. As you just mentioned, I'm Slade Downs, and today I'll be walking you through action on the Prioritized Project List. So as a quick refresher, the PPL is updated annually, just like the TIP, and it covers all unfunded projects and project phases during the 10 years following the TIP, running from 2032 to 2042. The PPL basically identifies what's next, whether it's the next phase of a project or a new project entirely, and it's consistent with your board funding policies and the 2050 MTP's cost feasible projects. At your last meeting, your staff had the opportunity to preview the draft PPL, and we asked for feedback. We received a few comments, which resulted in a couple of minor changes to project costs due to inflation, updates to a few project scopes based on design considerations, and updates to some project phasing. Discussion at the last technical advisory committee noted that a TSM&O project had been omitted from the draft document. This project, located in Osceola County, will be incorporated into this year's final PPL for adoption. Its inclusion results in a minor adjustment to the rankings within the TSM&O project list. However, no other project rankings have changed on any of the other project lists in the document. And with that, unless anyone has any questions today, I'm asking for your approval of the PPL as presented. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the update and presentation. Are there any questions or comments from board members? With that, I will.
Madam Chair, move to approve the 2026 priority list, project list PPL.
Second, Janer.
All right, we have a motion for approval and a second, and this is also a roll call vote. Ms. Smith, you are recognized. This is not a roll call vote. You see, I have not hit that second cup of coffee yet. This is a general vote. So all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All any opposed? All right, that is a unanimous approval. Thank you very much. All right, and the next one is also, I believe, just a general vote for a approval of information items for acknowledgement. A request for a motion, please.
Second, Delary.
All right, with that, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, passes also, and that is unanimous. Thank you so much. And then we have, moving into other business presentations. This is gonna be our e-bike educational pilot program progress update. This is the highly anticipated, and you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hello again, board members. Happy to be back with you again to provide a progress update on our e-bike education pilot program. We'll go ahead and get started with just talking about sort of the purpose for the pilot. This is a chart you've seen a few times from Mike and I over the last several years as he's been doing his bicyclist and pedestrian crash typing. You start to notice, sort of a general upward tick in the number of bicycle crashes that we're seeing, but also in particular a significant increase in the percentage of those bike crashes that involve e-bikes. So culminating in 2025, which is the last full year of data that we have, where it showed that there was a more than 54% increase in the percentage of e-bike crashes over that pre-COVID period. For that 2025 crash data, actually, our current intern, Jamie McMillan, has been digging into those micromobility crashes for 2025, and that does include traditional bikes or e-bikes and our e-scooters within those micromobility crashes. And she was able to pull together this, I think, really instructive chart that shows what types of crashes we're seeing by age group. And we noted in sort of our younger riders, those under 15, we were seeing that they were sort of overrepresented in the e-scooter crashes that we were seeing. And then as we move to sort of older age groups, older teens, young adults, particularly those 19 to 29, we're seeing that they're overrepresented in those e-bike crashes. I will note that traditional bikes are still the vast majority of those bicycle crashes that we're seeing, but a lot of those crashes we're seeing with our older age groups, you can see on the chart, particularly those 30 to 64-year-old riders. So we know that there's been sort of an increase in usage of e-bikes for across all age groups, but in particular, we're seeing a huge increase in our teen and younger rider usage. And then we know that a lot of those younger device users have no formal training when it comes to sort of traffic laws, rules of the road, the safety capacity of their particular devices. And with that lack of training and that increased usage, over time, we've started to see an uptick in the number of this e-bike, e-scooter crashes across the board, and especially those severe crashes. So we think that this is where this type of training opportunity may come in. Just wanted to use this slide to remind you of what the course that we've been piloting entails. It is a 60-minute online course that was developed by the American Bicycling Education Association. So it's not just a sort of sit and passively watch videos type of course. There are some interactive quizzes throughout, and it's broken up into 21 modules that cover everything from safe usage of e-bikes to understanding of roadway rules and how to properly use bicycle infrastructure. There are also some tips on how to avoid crashes, particularly taking into account how much faster these types of devices go than traditional bikes. And then some tips on how to ride safely with friends, which is something that we know that we're struggling with here in the region. So in addition to this online course that ABEA put together as a part of the pilot, we also developed pre and post quiz surveys that students could complete so we could have a better understanding of sort of the knowledge retention and their attitudes as device users before and after taking the course. This slide just gives sort of a snapshot of how we set up the pilot. Our intent was to target schools in all 3 counties within our planning area. We were aiming to try and get to at least 3 schools per county. We did an initial purchase of 500 seats, and we had some funding available to go up to 1,000 if we had an uptake rate that was high enough. And then sort of based on that data I showed earlier, we were targeting grades 7 through 10, so our middle school and younger high school users. And then over the course of the pilot, we did end up making it so that the online course could be actually loaded directly into Canvas, which is sort of an online learning classroom that all 3 of our school districts here in our planning area use. So in terms of the outreach approach, we kicked off in January and we sort of immediately started with outreach to the school districts themselves. We wanted to start at the district level so we could have some of that programmatic buy-in. from the districts. And then from there, we did pivot to reaching out to specific schools and or principals, either based on the places where the project team already had relationships with schools based on other educational outreach, or in some cases, the district did point us to specific schools that they wanted us to reach out to. So I mentioned that we partnered with ABA to make it so that there was a tracking dashboard that we could track how many of the courses or the seats had been used. And then if you look at the milestone sort of schedule on the right there, in March and April, we had first uptake actually in Osceola County with the school district there. And they engaged outreach to a voluntary after school program where students could come and watch the course and do the pre and post surveys. Through that deployment, we were able to get 3 students that actually showed up for that voluntary opportunity. And so we pivoted. And by sort of May, June timeframe, we had moved along far enough with OCPS, Orange County Public Schools, to start reaching out to some schools there. And with Luminary Middle School in the Lake Nona area of Orange County, we're actually able to get the course loaded up into Canvas and onto Canvas for that school. And so through that outreach, we were able to engage 268 students in a month. So that Luminary Middle School deployment was obviously our strongest that we had for the first sort of half of our pilot. And the way that they went about it was they used their social studies hour towards the end of the school year. They had some time where they didn't have a curriculum planned. And so I think almost all of the 6th and 7th graders, or a huge chunk of the 6th and 7th graders at Luminary Middle School did complete the course. And that 96.11% average grade was for those in-course quizzes. We haven't been able to get OCPS to release the pre and post survey quiz information for us yet, but that strong performance we saw for the in-course quizzes there. So what we found really worked well with Luminary Middle School was the integration of the course into an in-class activity where it was not voluntary, the students were just doing it. Getting the course configured in Canvas was obviously critical to that. And as a part of our work with OCPS to get the course ready for upload into Canvas within their system, we've also readied the course for, to be ready to upload into the Canvas system for both Osceola County and Seminole County schools. So that's something that we'll be pushing as we move into the new school year that we're heading towards. I will note second school, Timber Springs Middle, also got configured and we're sort of ready to go in Canvas. And then we just ran out of this time at the end of the school year. So we'll be reaching out to them towards the beginning of the school year as we head into the new school semester. And then OCPS has also started to identify some other high ridership schools they may want us to reach out to. Water Springs Middle School and Horizon High School were a couple that they mentioned. In terms of our lessons learned, in terms of engagement, a few of the things that we've learned so far. First, it's really critical for us to have some sort of champion, either at the district level that's going to help us get in touch with the right schools, or at individual schools, whether that's a principal or a really engaged teacher, to help make sure that things keep moving along. You know, they have lots to do at the school, so having someone that's engaged and going to help us keep moving is critical. We think launching earlier in the year is going to be really helpful. We started in January, and sort of by the time we had some buy-in and coordination with the right schools, you know, we were up against end of year testing, other end of year activities. So we think starting off at the beginning of the fall will be really helpful. And then we did have some incentives, some gift cards and other incentives, and we found that those were helpful, but aren't really going to be a guarantee for participation. And then in terms of how we think we can scale the program, like I said, that putting the course into Canvas where it can be delivered and students can get to it when they sign into all of their other sort of online classroom is critical. That allows for teachers to be able to assign it as either an individual learning activity that students can take up or something that they can deploy class-wide within class time. Also takes care of some of the data privacy issues that OCPS raised to us. And so that'll help drive completion, we think. In terms of lessons learned, we're going to try and build on some of the success we had with Luminary Middle School, reach back out to OCPS to try and engage Luminary again, as well as Timber Springs, which I mentioned is already sort of configured and ready to go in Canvas. And then we'll work with OCPS to identify some of their other high priority schools that they want us to reach out to. We will also be re-engaging with the school district of Osceola County to try and encourage them to look for opportunities to engage this in-class model within their schools. And we'll be attempting again to re-engage with Seminole County schools to try and get one or more schools there engaged as well. And then something that we didn't do, sort of the first half of the pilot, we'll be reaching out to Florida virtual schools to try and get some of those online students engaged as well. So our intent right now is to have all of the courses deployed and testing wrapped up by the end of October. That would allow us to be able to synthesize some of that data and come back to you with a full report at the end of this year. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Before I open it to the board, I did want to ask about how you were able to gather the crash data, knowing that some of it has been marked differently. And I guess how do we kind of collect all of that from the area for the information?
So over the years, Mike has been doing his bicycle and pedestrian crash typing, every single bicycle and pedestrian crash he's been going through, reading the narratives and we have sort of very good records for the region for those bike ped crashes. And so he had some notes on which ones were micromobility crashes. And then through her work, Jamie, our intern, had been diving even further into the micromobility specific crashes. And then sorry,
I was going to say, but more specifically, was it from a police report, an injury,
all police reports?
All police
Yeah,
reports.
it's all
So
coming from signal
law
4
enforcement was
crashes.
not involved, it did not make account. It's not accounted for, essentially.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's for those crashes, for instance, who may be sort of bike on bike. A lot of times those aren't reported, and those would not be in the type of law enforcement crash report that we would see where a motor vehicle is involved. Correct.
Okay, and a quick follow-up question to that would be, because I know that we need more information, we need more data, we need more of the, I think, substantiating data for being able to make some real changes. The bill that was vetoed identified, there was some language in that bill to collect data. How will that affect the pilot program, or will it affect the pilot program, or how do you see kind of moving forward around that?
Okay, so a few things. Number one, I don't know that it'll affect our pilot program. I think, we're going to continue our outreach as we had already planned to. I think that with the state law not passing, it's probably more incumbent on us at the local level to make sure that we're doing everything that we can. I think education is a huge part of that. So we'll be continuing that. In terms of the better data, yes. We definitely need better data, and a couple of ways that that's being worked on. There's already a group at the state level that's working on updating the crash form to include some additional options that will better reflect where there is micromobility involved in crashes. That's several, I think, years from being finalized. 2028 to 2032 is what I'm hearing in terms of when that form is going to be ready. But in the meantime, I know that FDOT is working on what I think is an algorithm essentially to pull out those crashes that involve micromobility, likely scrubbing some of the narratives where they would mention if there was a scooter or an e-bike involved. And so I know that the Signal 4 team has already sort of reviewed the algorithm and sent their notes, and now we're just sort of waiting on the data set to be available for us to use. Yeah.
No, I mean, to me, seeing sort of this moving it feels essential and timely. And I would say that understanding sort of that ridership piece that the school districts identified is helpful. I will say the high ridership are two in my district, and it is quite frankly a walkable, bikeable community, and they want people to be able to get around without being in their cars. So I think there's consensus amongst the citizens there that they want options. They just want some way to navigate that safely. So thank you so much for getting this moving. I know that young, vulnerable set, the conversations continue to be part of, I say, my day to day. I think a lot of people here. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions and comments from the board. Mr.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. Great presentation, really impressive. I just had a quick question. I noticed that a lot of the engagement went up a lot when it was mandatory in class. Is the thought to continue with social studies, or is there?
Not necessarily. I think we would leave that to the schools. They're going to know where best that may fit in. I know that there are some schools that have sort of their SROs, school resource officers that will do certain units, and so that might fit in there as sort of a traffic safety element. But we would leave it to the school.
Okay, but the thought is to keep it as part of an in-class.
We do think that the in-class making it mandatory is going to give us.
And just a quick follow-up. My wife's a school teacher at Blankner.
Okay.
So if you want to engage with Blankner, shoot me a note. I'll get you plugged in with the principal. Get it discussed.
Thank you.
Right here in your backyard.
Right, great.
It's such a good point. We really are a resource. I was thinking, I know all my principals, and I think it is, it's an untapped resource. I know that the OCPS is working closely, but if there's ever a need for that connection, I would invite reaching out to board.
But no, I appreciate that. And
Yeah.
if you have schools contacts in particular at schools like you do, thank you. I'll reach out to you.
Gotcha.
That would
That's
be really
great.
helpful. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Samrad, you're recognized.
There it goes. Good morning. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you, Chairwoman. I had a couple of comments. So I'm passionate about this topic because one, I've almost been hit by an e-bike with my children on a sidewalk. And two, I see so many kids arriving to my children's school on e-scooters, and they're very, very young. I believe, I mean, these are categorized as a motorized vehicle, and I really, there's a certain level of education that is required when we drive motorized vehicles. And I do really believe that there is an age that these are not appropriate for. My son is 8, and he has classmates that are arriving to campus with no helmet at 8 years old. And this is Hillcrest Elementary. So they're going down a very busy corridor with cars. And they don't cross always with the crosswalk. It's really concerning, and we've seen it at Orange County, the videos. And I mean, it's not just middle school and high school, but it happens for our elementary schools too. And I just wonder, is it possible with the schools that they have to have like a sticker that they put onto their their scooter or their bike if they're driving it and parking it on campus, and that sticker says that they have taken and completed the training. So it's not safe. And like I'm walking my kids into the school, and it's not enough room on a city sidewalk for e-scooters, walkers, regular pedestrian. It's just, I don't know if there's an additional measurement we can use to require, you can't park your device on a campus without this sticker that says you have completed the training. And I don't know if we can go there. And I have 3 questions. Do you want me to do them all out? Can we do something like that?
Wouldn't be as part of this body, but I know that it's being discussed by the school district. I'm assuming it'll probably come up at some of the upcoming Board of County Commissioner meetings, the option for requiring either some sort of registration of these types of devices, which is where I think this might fit in. If you're required to register and say that, yes, I have completed a course. With the course that we are using for the pilot, it does come with some like a printed or PDF confirmation that you've completed the course. So that could be something that is required. I think it would be probably up to either the district level or at the school level. The discussion there is just going to be how it's enforced, who's going to be doing the enforcing.
And I also want to make sure, because Commissioner Sermon, I think you came in after we talked about the effort that MetroPlan board is moving forward with trying to make sure that we're doing some more regional framework. So there's going to be, I think, more opportunities to provide what I believe are some of those problem-solving skills that we can get the players from OCPS in the room. We can't mandate for them, right? We can potentially offer that framework, the structure, and make sure that we've got everybody at the table. And so that is coming. I believe I can make sure.
Great. So I'll put them on public record then now. So one, I think that we should have the schools participate in some type of a sticker permit as evidence that you completed the education to prevent accidents of yourself and injuring others. Secondly, is that there are areas within Orange County, like iDrive corridor, that they simply do not want these devices on the sidewalk at all. And they are, they want them completely removed because they have the iDrive trolley for the last, take in the sunrail and then use the trolley, but they don't want these devices in the corridor at all for issues with the tourists. And then the other issue is that, so in terms of one of the important pillars and the stakeholders in the state of Florida, we don't yet require that when there is a bicycle accident, that it is documented as e-bike or traditional bike. And I think that is important that we actually begin documenting it, because if you look at the bicycle crash data for the entire state of Florida, you will see that bicycle fatalities have increased 50% in the state of Florida since COVID. And if you look at when these e-bikes came out, it's at that inception right there, yet we have no trackable data to be able to have any form of causality relationship or correlation. So it'd be great as we move forward and talk with the police and the stakeholders and bringing everybody together, that we have the ability to dissect that data so that we know more about it. And then lastly is that when we talk about students, we also have to consider that in Orange County, 1 in 10 residents is a college student. And many of those college students are not actually coming out of the Orange County school system. They're coming from out of state, and what means that they don't have the experience of the education. So I am also a teacher at a universities, and I see these students zipping around all day long without helmets, zigzagging across the road. And I think it's important that when we consider 1 in 10 residents as a college student, that we also are working, we consider the longevity of education. It's not just in the elementary, middle, and high school, but we have approximately, I can't do the math that quickly in my head, but I mean about 150,000 students, just in Orange County. So I think it's really important that we consider the spectrum of education and not just within our Orange County public schools. Thank you.
Absolutely concur. And I will say that as a part of the regional framework, I think how we can best coordinate at the regional level for outreach and education will be something that we're talking about.
And also then tourists, with 76 million tourists, none of them are from this area,
Right.
meaning none of them have been exposed to our education. And so working with the tourism industry to make sure that our guests who are visiting us are also safe.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I will say we did talk about sort of the broader piece earlier on in the meeting. I just want to make sure we recognize that this is the update on a pilot program. So I think we understand that we have to start somewhere, and that's what we're hopeful to get going from here.
And I'm very familiar with pilot programs. I do them all the
No, I
time.
know,
So I'm
but-
just looking, and I was listening to the meeting online. So I just wanted to put it into record here.
Absolutely, and that's fine. I just want to make sure we're also recognizing other comments or questions. Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Right on, Commissioner Samrat.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's all good data. I just wanted to add, have you talked to our staff or our director at the After School All Stars, Orlando After School? They'll give you access to all the middle schools in Orlando, and maybe some in Orange County, Mayor.
What was that, the Orlando After School?
Orlando After School All Stars program.
I will add that to the
Yes,
list. Thank you.
and we also have the kids zone that would also grant you access to some of the other schools. But this is definitely a concerted effort, and I think we have to grab onto everybody who's out there. So
Absolutely,
I just wanted
appreciate
to
it.
add
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No, I agree, and I appreciate that. Are there any other questions or comments from Commissioner Ruby? You're recognized.
Yeah, I think this is a great direction. I think it's a hot topic that we're all talking about, young people. But as we've been talking about this, I've been becoming more aware of what's happening, and I actually see lots of adults, right? And I just went to Miami for their fatality and bike injury conference that took place a week and a half ago, where they specifically talked about this. And I recommend, and it was really nice because Mayor Cava, lots of representatives from Broward, Palm Beach, and Miami-Dade were there, because Miami-Dade is one of the top deadliest cities for deaths and injuries on bikes. And they're trying to become the least, they're on a mission. And what was amazing was they brought in speakers from Montreal, from Paris, from all this, and they'd also gone abroad to see what life is like when cars respect bikes, e-bikes, and other forms of transportation. And also protection in lanes, very specific, like in Montreal, they don't go on the sidewalk. They have a bike lane, but that bike lane is very protected from vehicles. And even watching some of the videos of when cars are there, they actually give the right of way to the bikes and all of that before the cars go. So there is a culture change that I appreciate that Miami-Dade is doing, but I can't help but notice I actually see more adults at all times of the day. Like I see an influx of children. I think because it's summer, you just kind of see it spotty. But when school is in, obviously we see that morning rush and we see that afternoon rush. But I'm noticing a lot of adults as their main form of transportation to work and things like that. And I have seen more accidents because of the level of speed and on the sidewalk. And as Commissioner Semra mentioned, it was unsafe for her family to walk on the sidewalk because of that. So I would, highly recommend you reach out to the MPO in Miami-Dade, because it was incredible data. They gave such great things, and they even had us on virtual bikes in Montreal to see how the cars and other bikes passing us and stuff. but it was very enlightening to actually get that hands-on. And I think that we have to kind of get out of what we normally see as the norm in our country, but actually look and mirror at what other countries have done. Clearly, we're also a lot more warm, so I don't think, it's as avid as we see in other places, but they're really starting to see the trend. And one of the reasons why that forum was so important was there was a consulate's daughter, I believe, that was killed in South Florida, on the road riding a bike. And so I just feel like this is wonderful, but I can't help but not notice that a huge, huge amount of adults are really making this a way of travel. And I'm just amazed at their confidence of fierceness of not thinking that there's a vehicle, a ton vehicle coming along and things like that with no sort of protection, like no helmet, no nothing. So although the state, I believe, rejected this because I think some of the measures they felt were too intense, but I think we're going to have to be hopefully getting legislators that will try to bring this back in the next session, because we do need some sort of big coverage to help make us locally have some teeth in any kind of ordinances. But this is wonderful for children. And I think if it's mandated, it's like driver's ed, my time, you had to,
Exactly. Thank you so much. I was going to say, I think I'm making a protected bike lane convert out of it does make a difference. Ms. Pizzo, did you have a question or comment?
Thank you for acknowledging me, Madam Chair. And I just segue off of yours. I was curious with your statistics on the table that you presented, that the older age group, we seem to be more deadly out there on our e-bikes and our e-mobility. And was there any, why? Was there an impairment, drugs, drinking,
We
whatever?
haven't dug into that
Age,
yet.
balance, or all the above?
That's something that we would need to dig into for the older age groups,
Yes, ma'am.
the crash types and the reasons for those crashes.
Yes.
Let me report back to you on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was interesting to see. And I do think there's, once again, we talk about vulnerable communities and you're seeing, the upper set and the lower set. Thank you. And Commissioner Delory?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The topic at hand for this agenda is the pilot program. I have a lot more questions about e-bikes and e-mobility, but that's not what the topic is. So I look forward to that. But when it comes to the pilot program, what would the takeaway from the school system? I know you haven't gotten the surveys back from the students, but from the district itself, what was the takeaway?
We don't have a takeaway yet. I think once we're able to get those pre and post surveys, and honestly have a little bit more uptick in some additional schools to be able to go and have the conversation with them about how they may want to scale. Really the part of the intent of this pilot was to figure out if this online learning opportunity was the right way to go versus something that's more in person or hybrid. And I think once we have a broader set of results, we can go to the school districts and give our recommendation on that, the deployment type, and then I think there's opportunity for them to potentially coordinate with ABEA or one of the other. There are other courses that are available to negotiate sort of a bulk discount if it's something that they want to offer at
Great.
scale.
Well, I think
for
the pilot
district.
program is a great idea. I think you're doing a phenomenal job as well as the rest of the staff, and I look forward for more information.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to say, I think the 500 was a starting point based on some constraints of financial constraints and other, just wanting to make sure we're putting it where it's going to be helpful.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, I think next steps will be really critical. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right. I believe that is our final presentation for today. Ms. Smith, are there any general public comments registered?
I received a request from the virtual side for a Destin Correa.
Destin, is there a Destin Corey?
He's logged in.
Hello.
If there's a commenter online, could you identify yourself?
Yes, I am Destin Correa. Hello.
Hi, sorry, I think we're.
Oh, okay, yeah. So this is my public comment. Good morning, board. My name is Destin Correa, and I'm here with Sunrise Movement Orlando in support of fast-tracking Winx's planned bus improvements for the Waterford Lakes area. Waterford Lakes used to have a direct bus service, the 210, 211, and 212 connected to the area in UCF in downtown Orlando, and the 320 connected to the Bithwell for the East Orlando school areas. These were all cut in 2016 through 2020, and ever since, this area has been a real transit gap ever since. And saw your master plan in for 2050, which includes the primary route 506 from Wake Under Hill to UCF and the express routes 308 and 401A/B from UCF and Bithwell to downtown as short-term improvements from 25 to 2029, which would restore a lot of the connectivity we lost. I would love to see this board prioritize moving these forward as quickly as possible, since this area has clearly grown a lot and demonstrated the ridership to support it. And also, if there's any room to bring the 508 Curry Ford route and the Water Lakes Transit Center closer to the same short-term window, I think that would make a real difference for this community. Thank you for the work you put in, by the way, and for this plan. And I would work to work with the board, not just ask things for it. So please count on Sunrise Orlando as a partner in one of these projects across the finish line. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for your comments, for attending virtually today. Ms. Smith, is that our final speaker? Was there any other comment?
I don't have any more hands raised, and I have not received any requests for in-person.
Okay, thank you so much. At this time, we will open it up to any board member comments. Commissioner Semrad, you're recognized.
Thank you. So I have a comment because I have a concern regarding the Lake to Lake Trail coming through District 5 in Orange County. Specifically, so there's an area that this looks at. It's the Headwaters Trail, and it's basically going between Bithlow and Wedgefield. And it's along the econ, and that wildlife corridor. So when we ask animals to live in a hallway instead of habitat, I take issue when we start putting asphalt in that hallway. And in this particular area, it goes down to only 200 feet is what the animals have. And when we look at, I asked about the construction footprint. And a construction footprint for this trail will be approximately, I think it's 14 feet. So it's about 14 feet. Let me see. No, it's a total of 16 feet, two foot shoulders, 12-foot width. It's asphalt. It does allow e-bikes to use it. We have an area of 23 miles. That's only 200 feet. And in the construction process, that construction footprint can go up to 60 feet for the construction materials, for the machines that come in. There are wetlands. And so I'm not supportive of putting asphalt into a wildlife corridor when we're asking the animals to live in a hallway. They've lost their habitat. There will be wetland impacts that will occur. And when you go down to 23 miles of only 200 feet and you're giving then 16 of it, it's to asphalt that will have e-bikes that can use it. That's not what we want to be doing with our wildlife corridor. We use taxpayer money to purchase it. We use tax money to sustain it and maintain it. And I think I'm totally in support of, running it on an easement alongside it, or changing the substance of it so that it's not asphalt. This is larger than a lane on a road. So 16 feet is larger than a lane. A lane is 11 feet. That's putting a road in a wildlife corridor. And I have serious issues with that.
So I think those are legitimate concerns. We did as a board approve an endorsement letter and supporting the project. But what, potentially at this point we could do is facilitate ongoing conversations about the evaluation, the feasibility, the evaluation, the environmental impact. So if we can.
Commissioner, I wasn't quite finished. So I just want to say, I know that we did that, and I took Gary's advice because he was like, hey, we can get it changed later. I hear that we can get it changed later, but I also, I think that as we entered a letter of support, we got to change the surface. We can't put a lane in a wildlife corridor when they only have 200 feet total. We just can't do that. So this board offered a letter of support This project still has work to do. This is primarily impacting the district that I represent, and you know the people of the East. So this is something that is highly sensitive, and they don't want their taxpayer money spent like this. And every penny we spend right now is under scrutiny because of what's on the ballot in November. So I take real big issue with the fact that we've used taxpayer money to tell them this is a wildlife we will protect, a corridor we will protect, yet now we're urbanizing it with 16 feet of asphalt in areas that only have 200 feet for the animals to live in. That's not right, you guys.
So, and I have, I would like to potentially give Mr. Hutman the opportunity to address at the very least the stakeholders that have been included or going to be included in looking at wildlife impacts, looking at
Commissioner, we know the regular agencies like the Army Corps, we know what happened with Split Oak, we know what's happening with
I'm
Eagles
just trying to
Roost.
make sure we've got to keep the meeting moving. So I want to get some feedback from him and then potentially some action items. So if we understand sort of where we are, so we can figure out what next to address. I hear your concerns. I agree with you. I just need to know where we are.
Chairman Wilson, we do have a leadership, what's referred to as the Lake to Lake Leadership Team meeting next week. They are all aware of the interest in alternative services. DOT is interested in that. There was a bill in the legislative session that would have given DOT the option to look at alternative services under the Sun Trails program. That didn't go anywhere, but there's enough interest in there for an alternative service. I mean, we have the whole equestrian group that is concerned about that also for their own interest, in riding their horses. And so the Lake to Lake Trail, as far as any construction, is quite a ways out there. We are going to be kicking off, though, a master plan for the entire corridor that will be digging into that and looking at that more closely. And I would, I'm not going to forget your comments and your concerns. So as that moves forward, that will certainly be a part of it. And then again, we have legislators that we can approach that would give DOT the option to look at alternative services. So we'll continue working on it.
Thank you. Will there be opportunities for public engagement along the way? Because that's the other
Certainly.
part that I think was really critical about what you're saying, is that we need to make sure that the people who care about these issues are part of the conversation.
Yeah. And one more thing to add. The Office of Greenways and Trails is planning a public workshop in November later this year, to talk about the Lake to Lake Trail and other requests to get onto their maps for future Sun Trails funding. So that would be an opportunity, and I'm sure that the interests on alternative service will be present there, and I can get you that date as well.
Thank you. Commissioner.
What was it? What was the date? It's Monday, correct? Is the Trail to Trail meeting Monday at 9? Is it?
No, it's
Next
Wednesday.
week, Wednesday
at 9 o'clock at Bike Walk, Central Florida. It will not be here.
Thank you.
Commissioner Constantine, you're recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Hubman, are you saying that there is a law that says that they can't use anything but asphalt? DOT, when it comes to that?
And there's so much interest in alternatives.
Yeah, well, exactly. I'm just saying that makes no sense.
Yeah.
That they require that they have to use asphalt. I was looking at my former DOT secretary. Given options would be, it's kind of like instead of asking for permission, ask for forgiveness. I mean, like in some sense. But I didn't know that there was a law that actually prohibited any alternative. Okay.
Thank you. Are there any other board comments? All right. Well, this has been important, so I don't want you to think that. We just need to make sure that we're coming up with next steps. With that, I appreciate all the engagement this meeting, and our next meeting will be September 9th, 2026. And Mr. Hutman, will the room look different when we come back?
Jason, how different will this, in this room, just paint, carpet, and lighting?
Okay, so little zhuzhed up. Good. All right, thank you so much. With that, I will be adjourning the meeting.